do with slogan.
Guys, stay tuned because we're about to find out what it takes to be a figure competitor here with Fine for People. Hi guys, welcome on to Fine for People. My name is Grant Goes, the platform that helps you connect with the best in professionals, events and courses. Today we're talking about how to become a figure competitor. Now as you can tell by my physique, I'm not going to be able to share much information about that one. So just to quickly introduce the team. Down on the far side there we've got our beautiful and handsome Gilbert Garcia, our co-host here, is going to fire out some questions to our special guests. And they are special guests because they are going to compete in a competition. One is competing in May, so very shortly, in, I believe it was Birmingham, and the other one, Berlin. Anyway, we're going to find out from these guys. And the other one's from Manchester in September. Please welcome to Fine for People. We'll start off with ladies first, of course.
Hi.
Rachel Passfield, or you can find her on Instagram as exclusively Raven. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back.
Cool. And Gabriel Tutu, he's also found on Instagram at Gabriel Tutu as well.
It's a pleasure to be here, man.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for coming along. Guys, you guys are competing soon in September together on the same show, which is awesome.
Yes.
Congratulations on that one. Was it a planned thing, or was it just something that happened?
It was kind of by accident, wasn't it? We were discussing shows that we were planning on doing, and we were both really interested in the same federation, which is PCA.
What does PCA stand for?
It's the Physical Culture Association.
Okay, cool.
So we were discussing shows and, different times of the year that we would feel comfortable, having so much of an off season, would we go earlier in the year or later? And I think we just both decided that September would be a good time, so we figured we'd do the same show.
Nice.
Gabby lives in Norway, so you wanted to go over to the UK and do one of...
Yeah, I want to compete in UK because it's closer to Norway, and the PCA Federation sounds like a step up from what I competed in the past in Norway, and there'll be a bigger challenge, so I'm excited for it. Yeah.
Let's talk about it, because how long have you been doing this for?
I've been training competitively for the last 4 or 5 years. I've only competed once in 2018 in March. In a
So you've only
show.
both competed only once?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's our second show.
Yeah.
Second versions, huh?
yeah.
That's what again.
It'll be my third show actually in September, since I'm competing again in May. So.
Yes. Sorry, where was it again? I did forget that one.
In Birmingham.
But it is
Birmingham, yeah. It's
Okay,
the
so I
body
did get that
power,
right.
yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. And then, so thank you for wearing a sleeveless shirt, by the way. I mean, it's great.
Making you feel insecure. That's why I sat here at the other end.
Thank you for that. So when it comes into it, first of all, we talked about with Rachel before last time, kind of why she got into the sport and what kind of brought her into it. What was it for you?
I grew up with Arnold like everybody else, and you see the movies and Generation right now, Pumping Iron, and I just fell in love with the artistry of it.
Yeah.
And it's I'll never forget when Arnold said in Pumping Iron that like an artist can slap some clay on the side of a sculpture. As a bodybuilder, you'd have to like train that particular muscle in a specific way
Totally.
to build, and it's that much harder and more difficult of a process compared to sculpture. And that was fascinating to me. It was very challenging to actually try to aim for building the perfect physique, or like at least being in the look for it. And the whole posing of it is very, very artistic to me, especially when I watched bodybuilding shows from the 90s, like Shawn Rhoden and Flex Wheeler and those guys, and it was just very, very artistic and beautiful at the same time.
Totally.
What's the difference from back then to now? Because obviously from generation to generation, they've obviously have more detail now when you go up on the stage.
Differences you mean in like the bodybuilding at the
In terms of presentation, like do they still have the mandatory poses?
They kind of compare the old school bodybuilding now to the classic bodybuilding, because obviously the size and the mass is so much bigger now. they say that aesthetically, classic bodybuilding looks the most similar to what we would remember growing up with bodybuilding. So,
because how much of it is about size? I mean, you re-rank about the size. Everyone's getting bigger. Is that a big part of it? Is to be bigger, or
it changed in the 90s. From what I saw, like Dorian Yates was the original mass monster, and he brought this. But at the same time, he was very conditioned, so he had that really wow factor. Like Lee Haney was extraordinary. He had like very aesthetically pleasing physique and very beautiful. He was big, he was conditioned, but just Dorian Yates took it like one step further. And then all the other guys in the 90s was the same, and they kept really good conditioning.
Yeah, awesome.
And posing changed as well compared to the 80s to transition to more powerful poses compared to more artistic guys like Lee Labrada and all the other guys like in the 80s.
So there's two things that come up down there. First one being when you saying the comparison, like aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
What is aesthetically pleasing? Because obviously everyone's different. So when it comes to the sport of competing,
my personal opinion is a small waist.
Small waist.
It has to do with the small waist, the X frame, like a wide back and broad shoulders and a nice quad sweep. Like that's before it was the Y frame. Like Arnold didn't have like crazy trunk legs like you see nowadays.
You see that in the gym a lot, don't you?
So that's,
your pencil legs with the old big arms coming out.
They were big enough, and he trained them really, really hard. They just didn't grow as much as the other upper body parts. And it now is more like an X frame. So now you have to have like massive quads, massive outer sweep, and but at the same time, hopefully a small waist. Like Shawn Rhoden, for example, he brought 2 years ago was lauded for his midsection. A lot of people say that was the main difference why he won over Phil Heath, for example.
Okay.
So
how is proportion being judged when it comes to that? Because you said that there are specific areas that the judges are looking for, or is that your
it depends. From what I saw, it depends from federation to federation. And if you look closely, like
so many, right?
For example, 2 of the biggest shows in the world are like Arnold Classic and Mr. Olympia right now, and the judges they judge quite differently. It's just a different panel. So
they judge differently on certain aspects of the body, but if you're talking about proportion as a whole, you would have your body would have to be either symmetrically or proportionate to have such a large upper body. You can't go in with such a smaller lower body. So proportion itself is big across all federations.
So what
the specific criteria is different.
All right. So how is that being measured, the symmetry? Like back then in 1977, because Arnold was featured in the Guinness record, the most symmetrical physique ever. But you said that he's got a very tiny waistline, but his legs, in my opinion anyway, and a lot of critiques said that it's not as proportionate to his upper body compared to Lou Ferrigno, who was really massive
whereas
here and
symmetry
there.
would be like from side to side, like to make sure that you don't have a stronger
balance on
right
either side of the body
to left side. You would have muscle mass the same on both sides, whereas proportion would be top to bottom.
So symmetry is like a line of symmetry, like on the.
So do you go through a metric?
Small left arm and a huge right.
No, I think
it's visually.
There were some people try to do some measurements, like as far as like your waist should be like 50% of your shoulder width, or your calf should be as much as your arm measurement.
How do they judge that though? Because every competition I've ever seen, there's no one out there with a ruler or a measuring tape going around checking out the symmetries and everything.
They have the eye for it.
I was going to say those judges are professionals, and they do have the certain eye for it. And
what kind of training do they go through?
They see it all the time.
Some of them are former athletes themselves, I think. So it just says something about it. When I saw the first bodybuilding show when I was a teenager, to me they all look the same, and I'm sure everybody can relate. Like how do you compare? Because they're all huge, And nowadays you can see the small, the finer details, and you can pick apart even.
Awesome.
And things like tan matters, and conditioning, and
And where is your body fat lies when you're up there in the stage? Because for far as I know, professional bodybuilders, they're normally sub 3% body
It's between 3 to 5%. 3 to 5.
Between 3 to 5.
And then you get to smile while you you feel
it was some guys, even like probably 2%, like Andreas Munter. He had this.
He's dead now.
I know, but he. Not
related.
It might be related. You never do not know.
Yeah, because he tried to maintain sub 5% body fat all year round.
He had extraordinary
physiologically, it will ruin your system. Yeah.
Yes.
For stage, we talked about this off camera. For stage, that's. You have to show your physique at its best, its most driest, best condition. But that's not sustainable any longer than
I'm glad you mentioned
show week.
Yeah.
No way. And I think it's one of the most
think it's even less than a week. Sometimes it can only hold up for like 2 days, and some guys can peak, for example, on a Thursday, the week of the show. And then by Sunday, they started to already retain a bit of water.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you said that it's relative for all individuals. So where do you guys go? Like, for example, individually, anyone can answer. Like, what's your peak? Do you peak 2 weeks before, or 1 week before, or 5 days?
That can depend. Like it all depends on your training structure, because some people can peak too early, and then it's unsustainable.
What would you do, Rachel?
Yeah.
What would you do? 2 days before, peak 1 day before? What would you look to do?
To be at my most, a couple of days before, because for my show, I actually had some hormonal issues before. I actually came on my period the day before, which was unexpected.
Yeah.
I lost my period for 4 months during my prep.
Okay.
Obviously due to body fat being so low, and surprised me on the day before the show. So of course my coach and I were a little worried about water and hormonal issues. So I think I would rather peak probably as close to show day as I could.
Okay. Cool.
Were you aware that that was going to happen?
No,
when you got
completely.
So nobody told you that, hey, you might lose your period for a few months.
No. I knew that.
Okay.
I knew that I would potentially mess around with them, and obviously when they started to be a little bit more infrequent.
Okay.
But I had really good condition for my show, so I did actually get quite dry pretty quickly, but I wasn't quite show condition. I think I managed to last it a little bit longer.
Okay, cool. Where are you, Gabriel?
Peak week.
When did you lose your period?
Are you surprised as well?
No.
Yeah.
But I think peak week it's a bit overrated. As far as a lot of people they expect magic things to happen that week. If you're supposed to be ready 2 weeks before the show and then just cruise. Last time I competed, I had to make the weights, and Friday, the day of the registration, I woke up 2.2 kilograms heavier.
Oh, really?
So I had to do like an hour and a half almost of sauna and stuff. So it was like horrible.
What affects that? Your nutrition, your stress level? Or
It was the stress. I think I was in quite a big caloric deficit for the last 3 to 5 weeks, but I was struggling to get down to that number.
I want to
Do you think
understand.
that you went down to too much of a calorie deficit too early? Because obviously you want to have impactful changes.
That might have been, but everybody's first competition, it's a lot of trial and error.
Of course.
Totally.
There's no protocol as far as manipulating carbs, water, sodium that works for everybody.
I heard so many horror stories about the water loading in peak week. Do you know about water loading? It's where you drink so much water in the last, I'd say, week as an example, and you basically train your body to it keeps peeing. You're putting all this water in, and you keep peeing, and then a couple of days before the show, you stop drinking water, but
Why is that? Is that
so
because
you're drying yourself out?
Yeah.
I heard so many horror stories about that, and I was quite lucky that my coach didn't go down that road. But I mentally, I think, had messed myself up coming into peak week. I was really nervous about what was going to happen over the next few days, and then my coach went, "No, we're not water loading."
was that got to do with the diuretics that people are using?
Not necessarily. You can just, for example, like on a Tuesday, you can drink 8 liters of water, and then maybe Wednesday, like the same. And then Thursday, you can drink like 3 or 4. And then Friday, drink like 1 liter, and then Saturday, 1 glass.
I want to go back to that topic earlier that you guys said that you could peak in 2 days before, because for MMA fighters or professional boxers, before weigh-in, they drastically dehydrate themselves just to get into weigh-in. So that's a massive amount of fluids.
We don't weigh in. Women don't weigh in.
Yeah. So
depends on the classes.
That's why I want to understand what's that 2 days before. How do you go peak in 2 days? Like all of a sudden your body fat drops. What percent? From what percent to?
It depends on how you've manipulated the end of your training. You know, you might taper off your training a few days out, because you don't want to have a big leg session and have swollen legs. So your training changes, your cardio probably changes.
Is that significantly noticeable?
Absolutely. Like your last leg day should be a week out. Like for example, last Sunday before the show.
Because going back, so it doesn't swell the muscle.
Yes.
So that it keeps symmetry, or
you'll have more detail and definition in the legs.
Yeah,
and
water surrounds the muscle. So if you're swollen, you might have be a bit watery around it, which you don't want that close to show.
Cool, easy.
Because you want it skin against muscle straight away.
Yeah, and the last place you drop that is your glutes, your lower back, your your hamstring. So you will see.
Keep those thoughts in mind, guys. Guys, we're going to go to a short break, but after we do, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about more about what it takes to become a figure competitor. Obviously, there's a lot more than I knew, and there's probably a lot more than you knew as well. So if you have any comments, questions, chuck them in the comment section down below. We can get back to you on that one, but we'll be back straight after the break to find out more about what it takes to become a figure competitor.
We've all been there, hours searching the internet, asking friend upon friend, making call after call, trying to find the right fitness professional, health specialist, or sports coach. So much time, energy, and even money spent only to find more problems than solutions. Well, now, with the Find Fit People platform, you can find all the available professionals with the skills you need in an instant. We've removed all the barriers by establishing a community of many different skilled health specialists, sports coaches, and fitness professionals that are alerted immediately once you've posted your request. In under 30 seconds, you can attract multiple professionals with the right skills to help you achieve the result you want. It's simple, fast, and free. Find us online at www.findfitpeople.com or download the Find Fit People app from Apple or Google Play stores so you can find fit people today.
Hey guys, welcome back to Find Fit People. My name is Grant Goes, and the platform helps you connect with the best professionals, events, and courses. Today we're talking about what it takes to become a figure competitor, and we're learning a whole lot of new things. We've got our special guests here, Gabriel and Rachel, explaining us what to do, and of course our co-host Gilbert Garcia down the end here. Guys, chuck your comments and questions in the comment section down below, and we can come back to you and answer those ones. Guys, we were talking before, we've just kind of went through a little bit of the prep, a little bit of the posing, the difference between what happened before, what happened now, information on that one. We just talked about dehydrating in the last week and prepping yourself to going down, drop down, maintaining, even a little bit about maintaining that low percentage, because you go down to like 3 or 2%. We're just going to quickly go back to where it was about the posing, because you said it's developed and changed, and there are changes. Well, we talked about symmetry changes. There's posing changes, and you were about to talk about there's more powerful posing, or what's really the difference between what it was and what is, say, within the last 10 years?
I think nowadays, in IFBB, for example, when you have classic physique, and then you have bodybuilding and then 212. In classic physique, they aim to be more artistic, and they move a lot more, especially they do like floor poses, like they do the side lunge with the a front double bicep, and a lot more reminiscent of the 70s and 80s era. And a lot of those guys...
To music well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. When they have their own individual routine of... I don't know if it's 1 minute. Maybe they have more at the Olympia, but usually it's about 1 minute.
Yeah, the Olympia was like almost a whole song. There was a couple of...
Yeah, I think it's maybe 2 minutes or something like that. Yeah, they can...
Posing for that long.
Absolutely, they're the best in the world, and it's the final, so they...
the Olympia, they're the ones that incorporate music and choreography as well, right?
Most federations do.
Every federation.
Are you doing a routine to music?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but only the final, the top 6.
Are your categories required to do that as well?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, right.
I have a song and everything.
You're only the final 6 that do it.
So
I have to do it anyway.
If you're in the top 6, and when I competed, only the top 6 get to perform their own routine.
Okay.
When you say that too, sorry, you got music. Like other people thinking, okay, is it just music? What else is required in that routine? Not like lights or dance or background music or anything like that.
You have a certain amount of mandatory
there are certain mandatories you have to incorporate within.
Yeah.
So for example, you do the mandatories and it's the quarter turns, and then in your own posing routine, you can't just dance and like break dance and stuff like that.
Also, I've seen some people do the splits. I've seen people do a moonwalk. I've seen
definitely. Maybe that's a bit too much like Michael Jackson or Pop Lock.
Kai Green,
Yeah.
You know, Kai Green, he's massive and he's got long hair. He's dramatic.
When he
He's
yeah.
But for most people, that's scary because he's enormous. He's like a huge specimen. But
also, it's the chance.
Artistic,
it's the chance to put your most strongest poses in that might not be included within the mandatory quarter turns. So I may have, for example, front double bicep, but the mandatory pose might not suit me very well, so I'll do a variation of it in my routine, so I can pull my strongest points out.
But you still do the mandatory pose anyway,
yeah,
right?
I'll make sure that I hit certain
and then you transition from pose to pose. For example, one of my best poses that I can do is the crucifix pose with the vacuum. And you don't have that. Is you have a front double bicep, which is similar to it. And then so
Can you give feedback? Say, like, can you put this into the mandatories?
no. Some guys would like
No,
slip in some
save it
poses.
for your own routine. Then
Yeah.
you're the only one that hits it.
When you do the mandatories and the head judge tells you like next pose and so on, some guys as they transition they will hit some sort of a semi pose. Like for example, you see if he does the like a side tricep or something or a side chest, and then he would do that thing when he flexes his tricep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's yeah. So
Seen
some
it.
guys
We
do
were
that.
talking about that yesterday because we were going through side tricep for my routine, and I said, "No, I'm not sure which way is better to hit it, from this angle or back." I thought I'm going to do both. So when you hit the side tricep, I'm going to hit the pose first, but in the middle of it, roll it back. So I actually end up showing both.
Absolutely, and you have to consider there are like several judges, maybe 8, 9.
I'm literally about to ask how many judges there were because
I think
the
it's
things
like
are happening so quick and
maybe
snappy.
8, 9, 10. How many? There's quite many, and they're like at an angle. So you have an angle that you have to like turn and show every single judge from the front, for example. So a lot of guys they would do that like a slight turn so that you face the whole audience.
I'm
And
just
don't
thinking.
forget, we've been practicing posing in, let's say, a studio, for example, where you have a mirror in front of you. So eventually, leading up to the show, you have to remove the mirror so that you don't end up relying on it. You have to hit those poses
Yeah.
You
without
have to
seeing
feel,
it.
right.
But also, you're probably used to standing on a stage straight on, whereas actually the judges
Well,
are
say
at an
these
angle.
on angles
So,
over here
so
and here,
now
yeah.
you're on the stage and you're like, okay, I have to kind of adjust myself and
Dude,
That's a
cover
really important
everybody.
thing I learned when I pose that the judges are sitting down so that you're at your feet level. So for example, if you do a back double bicep, you need to like really tilt back a bit
Okay,
more.
yeah.
At the same time,
So
you cannot do
looking
it too much. Yeah, because the lights are probably straight above you. So if you tilt too much, there'll
You
be
lose
too much
the
of a
shadow.
shadow. So you have to, it's very delicate. So yeah.
So,
Why
man.
why so many judges? Nine. Like if you watch,
to make it fair.
It's the same in every
Fair.
layer. Yeah.
are they all looking for the same thing, or they have different
They're all
criteria and
trained,
they
they're
match
all
it?
trained in looking for the same thing. They
Well,
might have a different
Because if you watch
opinion.
American Idol or British Got Talent, there's three. It's
not
consistent,
compare.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
and look at the shit you
that's
get
my
through
understanding of
there.
judging. Yeah, exactly. So imagine 9 other critiques.
No, but you can compare it to powerlifting or weightlifting, where they have 3 judges,
That's
or they
it.
have in powerlifting they have a judge from the front and 2
Yeah.
from the sides.
Okay.
And that should be more than enough to judge whether or not the lift is good.
Mm.
In bodybuilding, where it's more subjective, I think the highest point and the lowest point, like same like in gymnastics or something, are not counted. And like I don't know exactly criteria how they judge and how they add up the points. I know that you won't have the least amount of points to win, but. And then there's a head judge who I think also has
That's the final say.
something like that. I think I'm not really sure.
And before you go out to stage, you have to think about like, what's my strongest point, for example. What do you believe the judge is going to pick?
That's
on
a lot
you
of
for-
decisions.
Do you get information
for
Yeah.
about the
strongest
judges?
point? But if
No.
it's all so
Oh,
close, if it's all so close together, like if us 4 are on stage and we were all pretty similar physiques, then the judges have to look at what's wrong with each one instead of what's
Exactly.
good about each competitor, and they can't pick a difference. Then it's what's wrong about
Can
you?
you do it as a competitor
Really?
though? Can you do you know the judges who they are before the show? And you have like, just for example, if you've seen them before, if you know
Well,
someone
there are,
who what
can
they
there are
find
look
certain
like.
smaller federations that have
The same judges in there.
that-
You can find out who they are.
Yeah.
When I competed, there was
on
a
Instagram or Facebook. I'm just saying, if you know about them, or get information about them, then you can do your best poses for.
Because
No, when I
charm
competed,
plays a key role as well, right? Is that why you asking that? Because you back from what I've learned from people who's done it, like you gotta do your best presentation. You gotta make sure a judge that you think might affect the scoring.
Well, I think if any competitor is going for that side of I want to win, right? So it's about if there is a judge that is subjective,
Yeah.
like ice skating or anything else like that, we've got multiple judges, then you want to be doing something that stands out for that judge, right? So if in ice skating, if it's a pirouette, a turn, a hold, a balance, whatever it is, then they would help you increase your score with certain
I don't think there's
judges.
too many variations that you could change to in order to win over a particular judge or
You
something.
just have to try to do your best.
The only
Yeah.
variables that you'd be able to change on stage, like for
Okay.
example, would be, oh well, I know that judge likes blue bikinis, so I'm going to wear a blue bikini. It's not like that. You don't
Yeah.
get judged on that kind of
Kind of
thing.
thing.
It's
Slip a
those
hundy and
variables
done, eh?
you don't get judged on. So.
Say, well, guys, we're talking about how to become what it takes to become a figure competitor, and so I want to throw this question right directly at you guys. That exact question: what does it take to become a figure competitor? I mean,
prep,
we-
nutrition, training.
It takes a huge commitment.
Yeah,
more
it's
than anything.
determination.
It's an absolute commitment because it will take so much of your time and energy. It will require a lot of passion. You'll face many challenges, many unexpected challenges, and you need to be strong. You need to be resilient. You need to have a strong team behind you. You need to have support. It's a very difficult thing to do.
Let's touch on a couple of those details. When you say time, like how much time?
Oh,
It's every
at the
minute
highest
of
level.
every
It's a
day.
24/7
Yeah.
occupation.
It's a selfish
Yeah.
sport. Yeah, it's a very selfish.
We
sport.
spoke
Absolutely.
last time about like losing social life and losing friends, for example. Like that's obviously a big sacrifice for some people. But moving forward, like Gabby and I, we only met because of the sport. Because I worked with Gabby's mom, and she found out that I was training, and she kind of put us in touch. And I've met some of the best people in my life through this sport. So.
So you've
you
created
change,
new
you
friends,
move on,
environment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Life evolves,
I
totally.
met Gilbert at the gym, you know.
Yeah,
so-
totally. What about the team side of things then? So
I
you
was
said you
gonna
need a
ask that.
team.
Yeah, you need a coach for your training, coach for your diet. Maybe it can be the same one. A posing coach, it can also be the same one. It can be a separate one. So you need absolutely training, posing, and nutrition is very important. You don't need a coach for recovery. He's gonna tell you just sleep early.
Really, seriously, you
Yeah,
need,
it's gotta
you
say
need
that.
someone to tell you that.
Therapists,
Sleep,
you know,
yeah.
this morning I just had my
But
my
it-
sports massage done. So
But you can have a coach for rehab, for
Yeah.
example, and you can do muscle activation therapy and all sorts of stuff like that.
When it comes to that team too, like the financial side of obviously with anything you're looking into, it seems like a big financial commitment as well as time and energy and things like that. Where's the sport like? It should be professional enough for the majority of people to make a professional, or there's always. I heard around here there's a pro card. I don't.
But
actually
there
know.
are sponsors, and
Yeah.
at the highest level, of course, they're very well paid. And when everybody starts, they dream of being at the top Olympia athlete, so they can get the
Totally.
sponsorship and endorsements and everything.
Yeah.
at that level, it even goes even beyond bodybuilding. That's where you
Yeah.
become
An ambassador
You
and-
become ambassador.
Yeah.
You become famous. So you'll get appearances. You get invited to come and.
You become a brand yourself.
Yeah,
So,
but
And
until
like-
then,
and like until then,
Yeah.
it is. You know, there's not big.
There's
prize
not money in
in
it.
it.
Oh.
You know, there's.
That's-
I think you can sustain. I think you can sustain a career in bodybuilding because, for example, you would have sponsorships. All that means is that I don't have to pay for supplements. So you end up getting supplements from clothes, from food, from nutritional supplements, and it's like, okay, I'm actually just getting by.
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
this.
Well, I know people that got a pro
So-
card,
so-
but they still have to do a full-time job
Of
as
course,
well.
and, and most bodybuilders do.
Yeah.
They would still have a job.
Majority
If you
of them
look at
like the
Ronnie Coleman
coaching.
was still a police officer
Yeah.
until
It's true.
way
Well
into
into
his
his
career.
career.
Well after he won the Mr. Olympia
Yeah.
title, so he was still.
Yeah, he was like Mr. Olympia, still, in his police
Police,
uniform.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
can
Is
you imagine
that-
get arrested by that guy?
is that where you guys are heading towards, or is you just doing? Because for example, for Rachel, because you've got a big team. You got a masseuse, you got a nutritionist, you got posing coach. What, 5? You got therapists, you got chiropractor. You got the whole shebang.
Yeah.
So it's a very expensive investment. Is that where the career is going? Like, because unless you're like Arnold pioneered it and he became a celebrity.
That's why I said like you have to have passion for it, passion to get on stage and show your craft to the people you're posing and your artistic side, and that should be your main driver in the
So
beginning.
for
because
you, honestly, it's intrinsic motivation. So win and
Yeah,
lose,
absolutely.
you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
It's not
because
because
at
you
an
wanna
amateur
make it a
level, there's
career.
not a lot of money in it. And that's just the
Absolutely
reality.
not.
I
of it.
think
Yeah,
that
yeah.
time filters out the people that are actually
Absolutely.
really serious about it.
Yeah.
And even with times throughout the year changing, people who train and they want to have that nice ripped body, for example, if not everyone will compliment you on your body when you're off season. So the people that are just striving to be complimented on how they look when they look in their best, when it's off season,
luck.
you need
Yeah.
to exactly. So
Totally.
it filters out the people that are not serious about the sport. I think.
And how long do you think it takes before they get serious? Like with the first competition, couple of competitions, couple of years?
It depends on the person because, when Gabby said when I went on stage because I really wanted to win and, I wanted to be ready.
Pumping iron inspired.
I did my show because I wanted to get the experience. So I didn't necessarily have many expectations. As it turned out, I got to a really good condition and was, had higher expectations. But at the time I just wanted, okay, go get this show, get it under my belt now.
Yeah.
And then
Get comfortable being on stage and being in front of people and
that's a big
underwear.
stage presence, yeah, in a
Da-da-da-da.
bikini.
And you guys enjoy the process, although it's cathartic, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
You get it's very
rewarding.
mental.
Yeah, because that's one of my concerns. Obviously, that drastic nutritional deprivation, along the process, just to attain that Greek-like physique.
Someone
And
sent me
some
something
people
on
follow it
Instagram
through
this
the
morning, and it
challenge.
said, "Why do you starve yourself
I saw that.
for 5 months of the year, so
Really?
to look good for 10 minutes on stage?" And it said you wouldn't get it. Like,
And get like 12th place.
It's definitely a big thing for like a lot of people, and I think you have to experience that for sure. Guys, we've run out of time, but thank you very, very much
Thanks
for your
for having
influence. Thank
us.
you very much for just helping us learn more and more. Got tons out of
for
it.
the honesty. Yeah.
Yeah, good luck in September. Good luck in May as well.
Thank you.
Look at those competitions. Guys, if you want to get hold of them, you can do that via the Instagram. The handles are exclusively Raven if you want to get hold of Rachel, and Gabriel Tutu if you want to get hold of Gabriel. You can ask them these questions. Reminder that the Fine for People app is now out and available on Android and what's that one? Yep, Apple Store. And also the Fine for People website is up with all the events, courses, and professionals that you can find without the region. Until next time, make sure you tune in 10:30 every day for a new Fine for People show episode. But until then, thank you again to the guys. Take care. We'll see you later.